So here I am. My pleasure to be sitting next to Tom Savini, one of my favorite personalities from horror films and other films over the years.
Everybody.
Well, I actually mean it to most people that I actually talk to, Tom. So thank you.
I feel special now. My cousin turned me on to Famous Monsters magazine, and then I saw what the real Lon Chaney looked like as the Phantom, as the Hunchback. But it was the movie that inspired me to want to create monsters, because I saw James Cagney as Lon Chaney creating monsters in Man of a Thousand Faces.
Mm-hmm. So what did your parents think of this? Their little boy is making himself up as monsters in the house. Was this a bone of contention for them, or what did they think?
No, my dad was like, get that shit off your face. But my mother was totally behind it. She used to let me sneak down on Wednesday night. There was a horror movie channel on Shock Theater. I don't know where it came from. Mm-hmm. Sir Roger was the... But I was allowed to sneak down after my dad would, he'd go to bed by 9 o'clock to watch horror movies on Wednesday night. So my mother was totally behind it, and would give me money for supplies, but also shine shoes to buy, makeup supplies. And it took 2 streetcars and a bus to go to the store downtown. It was a hassle, but mainly it was household stuff, nail polish, toilet paper, But once I discovered spirit gum, that was a different ballgame. Then I could start gluing bald caps on and doing stuff like that, So.
The other discovery, I guess, would be Dick Smith.
Yeah, well, that was a lot later in my life. I mean, when did The Exorcist come out?
73.
73, yeah. So probably after that. But was The Exorcist the beginning of Dick Smith in my life?
Well, Little Big Man.
No, Friday the 13th. My Friday the 13th. Was when I remember contacting Dick Smith. Because before that, we did Dawn of the Dead. And I know I didn't know Dick Smith then, because the blood I used was 3M blood made by the 3M. It looked like melted crayons. It was horrible,
Yeah, in places it looks...
No, it was horrible. It was always bad. But people make up excuses. Oh, well, it helped the cartoon effect, the comic book effect. No, it was shitty blood. It looked horrible,
The other thing they say about that film, and I've heard you say, is that the makeup that you intended, the color you intended, it was gray. It wasn't supposed to be blue.
No, it was all gray.
Yeah.
It was just gray.
So when you...
But the different lighting, the fluorescent lighting, the lighting that the gaffer was using, made it look blue or green. It hardly ever looked gray.
So when did you find out? Was it like
when
dailies?
The movie came out.
Oh my goodness! So it was after too late. Can't
it was
fix
too late.
It. Oh goodness!
And just yesterday, I did an interview with a guy in France, who and it was he sent me the questions on email, and he was commenting on how esoteric it was for the zombies to be blue sometimes and green, He says, was that intentional? I almost said, yeah. It was, no, it was a big mistake. They were gray, and they were supposed to look gray, but,
Yeah. They still look gray. I mean, it's that movie it still holds up.
Well, it was a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. Night of the Living Dead was black and white, My only intention was to make the zombies look different than human beings by making them gray. In Day of the Dead was my best zombies. They were like different colors and different disintegrate. I mean, it was really, I did a lot of research as far as, people die and decompose differently depending on your ethnic group, or whether you died in the attic or in the basement, So that was really, and then they called me on the carpet. The zombie, how come they don't all look the same? Well, they shouldn't look the same. They all died differently, or, this guy's Chinese, So those were my best. I won the Saturn Award for Day of the Dead because of the zombies.
Yeah, beautiful zombies in that film.
Yeah,
Beautifully gruesome zombies.
But Dawn was like, it's like, I mean, there were some appliance zombies, but mainly it was just to make all these people look gray, and you're supposed to be afraid of them because they're gray, and that means they're zombies,
So before this, you actually worked with Alan Ormsby a couple times on a couple films,
Yeah.
Bob Clark films, Death Dream, and then Bob Clark produced Deranged after that. So what was your function exactly? You were an assistant to Alan, or how did that work?
On Death Dream, my first movie, I was Alan's assistant, right? He created all the stuff. I just, helped him apply it. And I had some ideas, like when the guy got shot in the head, to use an air rifle so his hair would blow out, Just small contributions like that. It was a great learning experience to be on the first movie set with a big camera, But on Deranged, I was the makeup guy, and he was the director, and I was in charge of it all, So.
So Dawn of the Dead, fantastic film. Another Romero for you. This is your second now, Romero, because you had worked with him on Martin. And the two of you worked extremely well together, so well that you went on to do several more after that.
I think we did nine films together, yeah.
And to this day, do you still keep in touch with George at all?
Oh, yeah, sure. I see him at conventions all the time.
He's in Toronto now? Is that correct?
Yeah. In fact, April Fool's Day, there was a nasty rumor. Somebody on the internet said George Romero died. And I was flabbergasted. I knew he was ill. I knew he had a problem.
Yeah.
But so it made it. I believed it. So, but then somebody said, well, you know what? It's April 1st. I said, no, you can't. Really, somebody would do that?
That's not funny though.
No.
That's not funny.
So I called George. And I got his answering service and left a message. I didn't say what I had read, but I said, George, there's a nasty rumor. Are you okay? And he called back. Yeah. But we see each other at conventions and chat every now and then. He was supposed to direct the Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
I've heard that for years ago. I heard that he was involved in that, but
he had to back out for some commitment. I forget what now.
So for this movie, the remake, Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. Who do you envision? Do you have anybody envisioned for that Alan Ormsby, that amazingly obnoxious performance that he did?
No. I'd love to get Alan Ormsby in it.
As a cameo
some
or
kind
something?
of cameo.
Yeah.
But I want to, I like to use friends because it's great to, you take a chance sometimes. I'm lucky. I've never worked with an idiot or an asshole. They've always been great, very cooperative. Never had a hard time with anybody. So I want to make sure that happens when I'm in the director's chair because. It's already a tough job, and they don't want somebody to make it tougher. So I want to use friends, but I'll audition too. And that's how I found Tony Todd for Night of the Living Dead.
He's fantastic in that film. I couldn't see it without him now. He's so good. Who else could do that?
He came into the audition. I handed him the script. He went out in the hallway, came back in 5 minutes later without the script, knew all the lines, and produced tears.
Yeah.
I closed the book and said, "That's it. That's Ben."
If anybody could do Dwayne Jones justice, I think he did for that film. He's so good
Absolutely,
there. Yeah, he's very good there. Friday the 13th is for you. It's probably one of the movies that you're most well recognized from. Dawn of the Dead, Friday the 13th, and of course Day of the Dead at the Creep Show.
Actually, Dusk Till Dawn is what I'm most.
Well, as a visual, absolutely,
as
from
an
Sex
actor,
Machine,
right,
yeah. But you're working Friday the 13th.
James, here. Okay.
Nice catch, James. Your work in it is it's fantastic. Your gore work in that is really, really. It's for the time that it came out, pretty shocking stuff, pretty heady stuff.
Yeah, I mean. What did we do? I mean, I stabbed somebody.
You had some stabbings.
Jason's,
you had
the cutthroat.
The cutthroat, and
yeah.
The garroting. There's some.
Yeah, because that was right after Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead was the gore fest. That was when,
But
that's
the difference in Dawn of the Dead, the people who are getting killed are people who are relatively undesirable anyway. They're either the biker gang or the zombies.
Yeah.
So it's relatively okay to do those kinds of effects on unsympathetic characters.
What happened? Friday the 13th. I mean, the kids that died in that were, I mean, you liked them,
Yeah.
Robin
Bacon.
Morgan, Kevin Bacon. I mean, when did it turn into, please kill these assholes?
Right. Well, very soon after.
When did it turn into you wanted every teenager to die as soon as possible?
The second movie.
Second movie.
The second movie.
Because I don't think I saw the second one. I think I saw the third one.
Yeah, the 3D. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you came back, of course, for the fourth film. Now, I understand Greg Cannon was on for it, and then something happened. He wasn't able to do. He was upset that he was having to follow you and your effect work or the previous effect work.
No,
so he left. That's not how it happened?
No. He. What I heard was he just left to go do the Ozzy Osbourne's album cover.
Bark at the Moon.
The Wolfman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they got pissed off and fired him and hired me. So the crew was already working for him. So I went.
A good crew for the part 4.
Oh, they all look who they were. They all went off and formed their own studios.
Yeah.
Alec Gillis formed ADI. John Vulich formed Optic Nerve. Kevin Yeager.
Yeah.
I mean, these were the top guys. On that crew. Jim Cagle, excellent sculptor.
Yeah.
So I went in, and it was tough because here's this guy from the East Coast. Who what did I do? What have I done? Well, I know I'd done some films before that.
Well, The Prowler, The Burning had just come. Yeah.
So I was the king of splatter before I met them. But so it was hard easing into that to get them to. But I very friendly. I make friends easy, and we all got along great. But yeah, that was going to be the last Friday the 13th movie because the franchise was wearing out.
Yeah.
But it made so much money we're going to have Friday the 13th Part 13. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, if you've seen that last one,
we have. Jason Mears as
no, Derek Mears.
Derek Mears as Jason.
But he was great. He had great ideas, but the director kept slapping him down.
It's a set him up, knock him down film.
Yeah, but it was the dumbest one. It was supposed to be a reimagining, a retelling of the series,
Where's Pamela is what I keep asking, though. Where's Pamela?
Well, no, we're not. That reminds me of a line in the movie. A guy drops his gun in the puddle, and he's like, "Where are you, gun?" That's an actual line. He's saying that.
To the gun, like the gun's gonna.
And somebody says, "Well, that was his improvisation." Well, it was a dumb one, and it shouldn't be in the movie,
Right.
They're making love, and the guy's like, "Oh, your tits are stupendous." Who wrote this? Some 80-year-old guy that never saw tits. It was just the dumbest movie. And they take his mask off, gets knocked off in the wood chipper. They could have killed him right there. Oh no, let's drag him 100 yards to the lake and throw him in, so that as soon as he goes in, you can look at your watch and say, "When's he coming back up?" Because that's the only reason they threw him in is to duplicate my.
Exactly. So
it was my ending. I came up with him coming out of the lake at the beginning.
Congratulations, great ending. By the
way.
They
had no ending, and they had no ending in the part 4 that I did. The killing. So, I devised that, but. It's and there should not be a Jason because it's a kid that died in the first movie. The mother was the killer, so you're being trained to be stupid to accept Jason running around, But I talked to Betsy Palmer, about that. And she said, "Oh no, we never found his body, We just assumed that he drowned. He must have come out of the lake, I said, "Okay, great. He came out of the lake. He's a pinhead, so yeah, he wouldn't know what to do or where to. So." For 35 years, he was living there eating crayfish, and nobody saw this kid, So it's dumber to think that he survived, So, anyway.
So for you, part 4, then the revisiting of the franchise, was that really just for you the opportunity to kill the character you helped create?
Well, it's great to be Dr. Frankenstein. You get to kill the creature that you created. Mm-hmm. But no, to me it was about money. I was pissed off because on part 1, I think I got like $15,000 for. Pay my assistant, travel, equipment, materials, all I wanted was a big screen TV out of that, and I got that, Then the movie comes out, and, every review says that the star of the film is Tom Savini's effects,
Mm-hmm.
And they got $72 million. I said, well, that's not quite fair, So on part 4, I just asked for an enormous amount of money, and they gave it to me, So
it was vindication a little bit.
Yeah, but it was also creating the kills, It was also,
And the room, the little Corey Feldman's room in it, full of masks and everything. That must have been a joy for you
and
to actually.
His name was Tom.
His name's Tom, yeah.
And he's an effects kid.
It must have been so much fun.
What are they trying to say there?
You on film.
Exactly right. So, but no, it was fun, because you knew who Corey Feldman was before that,
Yeah.
But so creating those kills was, and it must have been good. Look how we killed Jason.
Yeah.
That was a pretty dramatic death.
It's fantastic.
Cut his head.
Where he falls onto the machete.
Cut his head in half.
Yeah,
but there was no death in the script. We came up with that. One of my guys held up the Dawn of the Dead machete to his head. I said, "That's it. That's how we'll kill Jason. We'll whack him in the side of the head like we did the reverse on Rennie Lee's and Dawn.
Yeah, right.
But then let's have him fall and slide down the blade." And they went, "Ooh!" So we did it.
Yeah, that effect is fantastic. Now, before this, for me, this is your masterwork, Creepshow.
Oh yeah,
that's still the one that when I think Tom Savini, I think Creepshow. I think of Fluffy,
sure.
And I think of so many of the bullet hole effect in Adrian Barbeau's head. There's so many little things in that film that you're responsible for that are brilliant.
Well, it was just me. It was me and a kid, me and 17-year-old Daryl Ferrucci that did all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was 5 movies. We did 5 movies, and I had never done an animatronic creature like Fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
But I just called Rob Bottin on the phone, and he explained to me how to do it step by step, and that's Fluffy. That's the birth of Fluffy.
So for you, is this one of those films that you still enjoy looking at?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It's classic. It's a classic film. I just saw there was a documentary on Facebook. It was an hour and a half of the behind-the-scenes making of Creepshow.
I've seen this. One of our viewers actually sent this.
Yeah, it's on the British DVD.
Yeah.
I must have done it because I'm in it, But I enjoyed the hell out of watching that because one, it took me back Two, it reminded me of lots of things I have forgotten, And it's a feature movie about the making of Creepshow.
So effects work, is it something that you're just kind of done with at this point?
No. I have a school. That teaches in Pittsburgh here. That teaches makeup effects. They come from all over the world. It's a 16-month program. It's a degree program. The students' attitude is like, this is school, because they're having so much fun, making their dreams come true. It's the least expensive school. It's the longest one. We're not kidding around. It's 16 months.
It's called the Tom Savini School of Makeup and Effects.
Special Makeup Effects program at the Douglas Education. Yeah, my name. Yeah, Douglas Education Center. But a lot of the graduates are working. It's not just movies. It's haunted houses. It's mask companies, toy companies, prosthetic labs, dental labs. The training allows you to work in a lot of places. And when we first started, we were training people to work in movies, and we have students working in all those places I just mentioned. But as far as myself, I don't do it for a living anymore. But I'm always sculpting, I'm always painting. But I just decided to move on. I'd been there, done that, got my name on as a makeup effects guy. But now I want to just concentrate on acting and directing, and that's working just as well. Grindhouse, Dusk Till Dawn. I'm doing Quentin's movie that
we know
that I'm not that I yes I'm doing that movie.
There's been some The Dead Matter, for instance. Fun little film, really fun little film. We're big fans of Ed's, and we've watched that film and enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I've been Ed's a friend of Ed's we go way back.
He's a fantastic guy.
Conventions,
really good guy.
Sweet man,
really sweet guy. Oh boy. So from Dusk Till Dawn for you was really the time that you got behind the camera as an actor. You got on the other side of the camera as an actor, and actually people recognize you from that film. And still to this day, I know Sex Machine is one of those iconic characters in films.
People will scream it at me from cars driving by.
That's embarrassing, and yet also
no, it's not. Can you yell it louder?
Right. Let these people.
Especially if there's women around.
Exactly. Sex
well,
Machine.
He's what? He's Sex Machine? What does that mean?
So the little.
The crotch rocket.
How was that done? Was it just spring-loaded?
It took 4 guys to make that work. One guy had to make the flap come down. One guy had to make the dick pop up, and the other guy had to shoot the flash paper through it. So.
Wow. Yeah. It takes one guy to make this work, ladies, in case you're watching right now.
It took a lot of begging, but I finally got the gun. I finally owned the gun.
You own that gun? No kidding. That's fantastic.
I normally bring it to conventions, but I keep it in a separate place than the stuff I bring to conventions, so I always forget, to bring it along.
Right, yeah.
Plus, if I fly, security always gives me a problem. What's this,
Well,
so I
obviously haven't seen the movie then.
But I attached a sign. There's a sign attached to it, laminated with a picture of me in the movie. This is not a weapon. It's a prop from this movie. Blah blah blah. It does not fire. So just so security will stop bugging me about it.
You've done so many great films over the years. I know you've mentioned Grindhouse. You're working with Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino. At this point, working for Tarantino, you're about to go back on location.
From my death scene.
And do some shooting again on that. So, can you tell me, of all the people that you've worked with so many people over the years, as directors, as producers, as anything. How does Quentin Tarantino stack up for those people? For you, in your eyes, how does...
He's a genius. He's the 13-year-old kid that just happens to be brilliant and has seen every movie ever made,
Right.
He dropped out of school to watch every movie ever made. That's his training. And his references are right on, and that's the movies that he writes and shoots are from his heart, from his soul, He loves making movies. This is June. They've been shooting since November. He still is enjoying every second on the set of creating, the movie that he's on. We're in the swamp, and 100 yards down the road is where they're shooting, and we're kind of hanging out on what solid earth there is, And all you hear all day is Quentin laughing. He's just laughing and laughing, having a ball, But he's just brilliant. He's a volcano of the mind,
So for you as a director, do you watch? Are you soaking this in? Are you watching him, what he does?
Yeah, I used to be pissed off at him when I first saw like a Reservoir Dogs. Like, fuck, man, that's a movie that I want to make. I want to make a ballsy, all out, and damn it, he did it first. But then, then you see Pulp Fiction, then you see Kill Bill, and you say, only he, can make those movies, So yeah, the script that I'm currently shooting, I read it and it was like I watched the movie. The script was incredible. Mm-hmm. So I was at a convention in New York, and Bo Svensson was there, and he was in Inglourious Bastards. I didn't recognize him. He pointed out where he was in the movie. Of course, now I know that was him. But he had the script of Inglourious Bastards on his table. I paid $100. I bought it because I just want to read another Quentin Tarantino script because it was so. I mean, that's tough. But he violates time. He violates structure in his screenplays, but they work. I mean, if you were, I imagine, screenwriting teachers in classes everywhere, when they're teaching, say, this does not apply to Quentin Tarantino, okay, because he violates all the rules, and maybe that's why it works. It's brilliant.
All the productions you've been involved with over the years, some of them have not turned out as well as you would have envisioned them or liked them to. Is there one on your resume that you wish you could just erase?
No, if it's on my resume, then
so you've already erased
acknowledging
them.
it. Yeah.
So is there one that
there are many that are not on my resume? Is what the way you
How
it should.
about one that you would be embarrassed to walk in a room and it's on the screen?
Oh, there's a million. There's 20 of them.
How about name one?
There's The Ripper.
There's Ripper. Okay.
Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things. There's Death Foretold. There's Eyes Are Upon Us. I mean. We sat around and remembered all these damn titles. I'm going, oh shit, I've done 20 of them. But that's 20 that's not on my resume, aside from the 37 that are, so anyway.
Small sampling.
Yeah, right.
Well, actually, a very successful career, because the fact that you've made 66 or whatever % of your films have been on your resume and remained on your resume is saying a lot. Because look at the films that have been coming out for the last 30 years.
And most people lie on their resume.
Yeah.
Quentin's resume said that he worked on Dawn of the Dead.
Really?
He would have had to have been like 6 or 7 when we made that movie.
Precocious.
Everybody except me lies on their resume.
So for all the films that you've done, is there any that you would have loved to have done but couldn't because of scheduling conflicts, because of whatever? Is there any film that came along that you wish you could have been?
Well, I was supposed to direct Pet Sematary.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah, Mary Lambert did a great job, but yeah, there's quite a few that I wish I had done or worked on. But yeah, there's just I have to look at the list. I can't they just don't come to mind readily.
Well, Pet Sematary came out to be a pretty darn good film.
Yeah,
anyway, she
yeah,
did a
sure.
really good job with that.
Absolutely.
You actually care for the characters and the effects in it are fantastic.
No, it was scary too. I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, very.
And I was supposed to be the villain in Zorro, the Zorro remake, with Antonio Banderas.
No kidding. Yeah,
I've seen this, Robert Rodriguez was directing it at one point, and he picked me as the bad guy. That's why I first grew the hair and the goatee and all that was to be the bad guy in that. And but he didn't want a flashback Zorro, Anthony Hopkins thing. They didn't want Salma Hayek, so it just they just battled and he backed out of it. I still enjoyed the hell out of the movie. I loved the Zorro. In fact, I talked to when I went to visit Nicotero on Spy Kids, and I wanted to meet Antonio Banderas. I wanted to get a picture with Antonio Banderas. So I'm hanging out with Greg in the makeup trailer, and there's a knock on the door, and it's Rodriguez. Come here. Takes me to Antonio Banderas, and they're speaking Spanish, and he's doing this, so I know they're talking about the dick gun and dust gone, and that's him, And then so Robert walked away, and we're talking, me and Antonio, about Douglas Fairbanks as Zorro and Tyrone Power as Zorro and the fight scene. We're just talking, and Robert says, "Hey, when I call your name, look over here." And he took our picture, and that's the picture in Spy Kids when Antonio Banderas, at the beginning, pulls a picture out of Carla Gugino's. It's me and him. It's me and him together. I get royalties from that. I got paid Screen Actors Minimum for that, just because I'm in the picture.
That's great.
Yeah.
And once again, thank you so much for your contribution to my life
with the show.
and our listeners' lives. It's been great. We
and
still appreciate
it. I don't know what he's talking about as far as
Django Unchained.
Django Unchained, yes.
It may or may not exist.
Yes. And the Rodriguez film. We don't know what he's talking about.
Right. And there's a Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things remake.
Now that you can talk about.
Yeah, please talk about that.
I got in trouble the first time because they wanted to keep that a secret. But now it's it's the miracle of the internet.
Yes.
It just is everywhere.
Blow the lid off of everything.
In fact, when I was just shooting just a couple of days ago, I was just shooting on that movie, nameless movie, and they were telling me all these things I'm not supposed to talk about. The next day, I'm looking on the internet. Boom! Every secret they wanted me to keep is on. So I haven't called them and said, "Hey, you know what? You know that secret? It's on Collider.com or something."
Right.
I don't want to be associated with the information getting out there, so I'm not calling them to tell them.
Don't burn that bridge. It's
that
starting to
the secrets
right.
are out. Right. Yeah.